Nicadeamas Tutorial 7. Displacements for general mapping. Works in any Steam game, as always. What we're going to do in this one is displacements, which are a morphed ground. Control-Shift-E will bring the 3D grid to the center of your project, as always. We last left off with our house and we made some breakable windows. Looks like I deleted the door. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make the skybox box a bit bigger with the vertex tool, Shift-V. Make sure you always line this stuff up to the grid, because everything becomes easier if it's lined up to the grid. From how you build it to how you texture it, even. One thing we're going to do is we are going to bring the bottom down, just so we can have a hill in our displacements. But there's a problem here, because what some people do is they'll build their map, but they'll build a giant box around it. And what they should be doing, Shift-X for the clip tool, Shift-V for the vertex tool. The problem is that there's nothing underneath their map. It's just floating inside this giant box, which is horrible for optimization and vis rendering. So I'm gonna pause it and go answer the phone. And I'm back. Okay, the reason you want to build this pillar underneath whatever structures you have going in the map is so that if you're like here and there's a big hill in front of you and you can't see underneath the house, the computer can see underneath the house. So if you put a big wall there, it stops the computer from having to render whatever is on the other side. Alright, moving on. Another reason you can do this is it gets you those nice pieces. We're going to do basic displacements. What you want to do is first texture everything in NoDraw, Shift-A to bring up your face edit sheet. Been mapping with dual monitors again, so everything's on the other screen. Go to Tools, select NoDraw, apply NoDraw. Now we're going to get some dirt or grass for our displacement. Doesn't really matter what we pick. Now we're just going to select the top faces, hit displacement, and create at the power of 3. The power is 2, 3, and 4. You can use 2 for small stuff and 3 for stuff like this size, but you don't really want to use 4 ever. I've heard that it can have some big problems, but I haven't run into any. But then again, I never use 4. I always use 3, and if I need it to be more detailed, then I make 2. See, the displacement power is how many points are in your displacement brush face, and the points you can move up and down with paint geometry and like that. Now we are going to paint geometry. We're going to make it's a bigger sphere, and you got to be careful with this distance because sometimes it moves really fast. It's proportional to how big your radius is, but when you're working with small stuff you have to turn it down to like 0.25, and you always have to punch that in with the number key. What we're going to do is we're going to make our house on a hill. And a problem you can see here, Shift-Z for full screen, is that this displacement and this displacement do not line up, because this one, vertex points, Shift-V, you can see it goes all the way across. This one is just right here. so the lines are squished in there. Now I think in EP2 you can sew them together anyway. Nope, never mind. Forget that. What you will have to do to fix this is called sewing, but you cannot sew textures together unless their vertex points are lined up nicely. So this is the best way to put a hole in your displacement, by cutting a square hole and then putting 45-degree whatever you want to call it on the different faces of the displacement. Now this is probably going to mess up your displacement, so you want to do that before you start raising and lowering your geometry. Shift A for the vertex texture window. And now what we're going to do is sew, and you can see it brings them together. And now we're going to use something called smooth, and that will kind of average out wherever your points are. It kind of moves stuff really quickly, so you got to be careful not to overdo it. Left click, right click to raise and lower. You've probably already figured that out. And there's our hill. Another thing you can do is invert alpha. Some textures have two textures to them. They got, like this one has concrete and kind of a ugly light thing. Invert, invert, and then you have paint alpha. Left click, right click. You can select the size of your brush and how quickly it converts it. So right now we're messing with concrete and dirt, I guess. And we're going to switch that over back to grass and dirt. And you can see how you can use that. So there's displacements. Just be sure that displacements don't seal the map from the void, and they don't stop light. So light will shine on displacements. They can even give themselves shadows, but light will penetrate through and go to the next layer, whatever you have down there. For this thing right here, the player's never going to be down here, and we don't have nothing down there. So what you could do is bring that up to further create this wall that will stop a player right here from seeing what is over here. You know, you want to block the player's view as much as you can without him knowing. That's all for Displacements tutorial.